I never imagined the night my grandmother passed away would also be the night my parents revealed who they truly were. Grandma had always been the only person in the family who treated me like I actually mattered, while the rest of my family ignored me or made jokes about how quiet I was. She listened to me, believed in me, and reminded me that one day I would understand people better than they understood themselves. So when she passed away, I thought the whole family would finally show some respect for her memory. Instead, that same night, I noticed my parents whispering in the kitchen with the family lawyer. Papers were spread across the table, and my mom kept glancing toward the hallway like she didn't want anyone to see. Later, she called everyone into the living room with a calm smile that didn't feel real. Your grandmother updated her. Well, before she passed, she said, acting like everything was normal. But something in my chest tightened immediately because Grandma had told me months earlier that her will had already been finalized and locked away safely. Watching my parents pretend nothing strange was happening made me realize something wasn't right. I stayed quiet, though, because deep down I remembered the last thing Grandma told me when we spoke alone. Sometimes people reveal their true selves when they think the person who protected you is finally gone. And as I stood there listening to my parents explain the new will, I had a strange feeling that Grandma had already prepared for this moment. They just didn't know it yet. 3 days after the funeral, we all gathered in the lawyer's office for the official reading of Grandma's will. The room felt too quiet, the kind of silence where everyone pretends to be calm, but is secretly waiting for something important to happen. My parents looked confident, almost relaxed, like everything had already gone exactly the way they wanted. My mom even gave me a small, polite smile as she sat down, the kind of smile adults use when they think they've already won. I didn't say anything. I just sat there watching them, remembering the strange whispers in the kitchen, the night Grandma passed away, and the papers I saw spread across the table. Something about that night had never felt right. The lawyer adjusted his glasses, opened a thick folder in front of him, and cleared his throat before beginning. "Thank you all for coming," he said in a calm, professional voice. "Today we will be reading the final will and testament of Margaret Carter." My mom leaned back slightly in her chair, her arms folded in quiet confidence, while my dad tapped his fingers lightly against the table. They both looked like people waiting for confirmation of something they already believed belonged to them. The lawyer opened the first envelope slowly and began reading. According to the documents provided, the estate and financial assets of Margaret Carter will be placed under the management of her children. My parents exchanged a quick glance. It was small, but I saw it clearly. A look of satisfaction passed between them, like two people silently congratulating each other. My mom even let out a quiet breath of relief, the kind of breath someone releases when a plan works perfectly. For a moment, the room felt like it was tilting slightly, like everyone else had already accepted the outcome except me. But the lawyer suddenly paused in the middle of the sentence. He lowered the paper slightly and looked down at the desk again. "There is something else I need to address," he said. My dad frowned. "What do you mean?" The lawyer reached into his briefcase and pulled out another sealed envelope. It was thinner than the first one, but it had a bright red stamp across the front that read, "Private, open only under special instruction." The room immediately grew still. My mom's confident posture shifted slightly. "What is that?" she asked, her voice suddenly tighter than before. The lawyer turned the envelope over carefully. This was left by Mrs. Carter with very specific instructions. I was told that if there was any indication that her will had been changed, rewritten, or altered after her passing, I was to open this second envelope. For a moment, no one spoke. My dad leaned forward slowly. "That's ridiculous," he said. Why would she say something like that? The lawyer didn't respond right away. Instead, he calmly broke the seal and unfolded the paper inside. My mom's face had started to lose color. Mrs. Carter anticipated the possibility that someone might attempt to modify her will after her death. The lawyer continued. Because of this, she created a protective clause. My dad's voice sharpened. What kind of clause? The lawyer placed the document flat on the desk and looked directly at both of them before speaking again. A clause that automatically cancels the entire inheritance of anyone involved in altering the original will. The words seemed to hang in the air for a moment. My mom blinked quickly. That doesn't make any sense, she said, shaking her head. The will wasn't altered. She updated it before she passed. But the lawyer continued reading calmly. To prevent manipulation, Mrs. Carter documented the original will and filed a sealed legal copy with my office 6 months ago. If the will presented after her death does not match that document, it will be considered tampering. My dad's fingers slowly stopped tapping on the table. The lawyer looked up again. After reviewing the version presented by the family 3 nights ago, he said, I confirmed that it does not match the original document filed by Mrs. Carter. My mom's voice cracked slightly. That must be a mistake. But the lawyer simply shook his head. I'm afraid it isn't. The silence in the room felt heavier now. My parents' confident expressions had disappeared completely. The calm control they had shown earlier was slowly being replaced with confusion and something that looked dangerously close to panic. The lawyer continued reading the final section of the document. In the event that tampering is confirmed, the entire estate will be transferred to the only beneficiary Mrs. Carter believed would never betray her wishes. My dad swallowed slowly. And who is that supposed to be? The lawyer turned his head slightly toward me. For a moment, my mom didn't react. It was like her mind refused to process what had just happened. But then her eyes followed the lawyer's gaze, and the color drained from her face completely. No, she whispered. The lawyer folded the paper carefully. According to Mrs. Carter's instructions, the entire estate, including the house, investments, and financial accounts, will now legally transfer to her grandchild. The room fell silent again. I didn't move. I didn't say anything. Across the table, my parents stared at me like they were seeing me for the first time. And in that moment, it finally became clear to them that Grandma had already known exactly what they were going to do. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't argue. I simply watched as my parents sank into the silence they had ignored for so many years. My mom's hands trembled on the table, my dad's face was pale, and for the first time, their confidence had completely vanished. I stood up slowly, feeling a calm I had never felt before, and looked at them. Grandma trusted me because she knew I wouldn't let anyone betray her memory. I said quietly, letting each word sink in, no one tried to interrupt. No one dared argue. The lawyer nodded at me and packed away the envelopes, leaving only the truth behind. That day, my parents didn't lose money, they lost control, and they lost the respect they had taken for granted. I didn't need to celebrate or punish them. Grandma had already done that with her foresight. What remained was the lesson she had left me. Respect and trust are earned, not demanded. They didn't lose me. They lost access.